Hello, everyone. So it is story time, and I have the perfect story for you today. So it is about summer. So happy summer. I hope you are having a good time at home and with your friends. Well, I have a perfect story for summertime. Now, it's not actually about the season, but when I saw this book and I read it, and it made me think about maybe things that you can do in the summer or maybe not to do in the summer. Are you ready? So, I'm going to give you a clue of something you could do or not do in the summer. It is a toy, and it usually goes boom. You can stop the video and think about it. Okay, so if you had a chance to think about it, so what goes boom? Maybe like fireworks or... So today's story is called The Rocket Book. So then, so the Rocket Book. So let's think about that for a minute. So, what could you do with a rocket? Could you do that? Where would you play with it? Have you ever had a rocket? Do you have a rocket? Where do you play with it? Is it indoors or outdoors? Well, let's listen to the story about these kids and what did they do with their rocket. The Rocket Book by Peter Newell. You've got all these cover pages. The Rocket Book by Peter Newell. The basement. When Fritz, the janitor's kid, went snooping in the basement, he found a rocket snugly hid beneath the window easement. He struck a match with one fell swoop, then on the concrete kneeling, he lit the rocket, and shoo-whoop! It shot up through the ceiling. So, wow, think about that for a minute. Was that indoor or outdoors? Would you do that? Ooh. Let's see what happens. Shoo whoop. First flat. The Steiners on the floor above of breakfast were partaking. Crash came the rocket unannounced and set them all a-quaking. It smote a ketchup bottle fair, and bang! The thing exploded. And now these people all declare that ketchup flask was loaded. So it shot up, and it went up to the floor on top of them. So where was he living? Is he living in a house? You can stop the video and talk about it for a little bit. All right, let's continue reading. Second flat. Before the fire, old Grandpa Hop dozed in his armchair big, when from a trunk the rocket burst and carried off his wig. It passed so near his ancient head, he roused up with a start, and turning to his grandsons said, You fellows think you're smart? Hmm, wow. Third flat. Algernon Brackett, somewhat rash, had blown a monster bubble, when oh, there came a blinding flash, precipitating trouble. But Algy turned in mild disgust and called to Mama Brackett, "Say, did you hear that bubble burst? It made an awful racket." So it's just going up, up, up. So where do you think he lived? Where do you think he lived? Was it a house? Let's keep reading. Fourth flat. Joe Budd, who had bought a potted plant, was dousing it with water. He fancied this would make it grow, but Joseph loved to potter. Then through the pot the rocket shot, and made the scene look sickly. "Well now," said Joe, "I never thought that plant would shoot so quickly." Wow, shot right through their plant. Fifth flat. Right here, 'tis needful to remark that Dick and little son were playing with a Noah's Ark and having loads of fun, when all at once that rocket stout up through the ark came blazing. The animals were tossed about and did some stunts amazing. Choom. So I think maybe they lived in an apartment with a lot of floors, right? So it's just going up, up, up. Let's keep reading. Sixth flat. A burglar on the next floor up the sideboard was exploring. The family with a brindled pup were still asleep and snoring. Just then, up through the silverware the rocket thundered flaring. The burglar got a dreadful scare, then out the door went tearing. Oof. Choom. Seventh flat. So sometimes when you're reading a story and there are some words that maybe you're not sure what they mean, I think one of the words that we could think about, that we could stop and think about, is this word here, flat. So what do you think that word means? So seventh flat. You can stop the video and talk to your friends or your teacher. So flat is actually another word for floor. So here we say floor, but in other countries and in other places they refer to them as flats. So let's go back to the story. Seventh flat. Miss Mammy Briggs, with no mean skill, was playing Casey's fling to please her cousin Amos Gill, who liked that sort of thing. When suddenly the rocket hot, the old piano jumbled. It stopped the ragtime like a shot, then through the ceiling rumbled. Doom! Right through the piano. Eighth flat. Up through the next floor on its way that rocket dread went tearing, where Winkle stood in bathrobe gay, a tepid bath preparing. The tub it punctured like a shot and made a mighty splashing. The man was rooted to the spot, then out the door went dashing. Yipes. Wow. Ninth flat. Bob Brooks was puffing very hard, his football to inflate, while round him stood his faithful guard, and they could hardly wait. Then came the rocket fierce and bright, and through the football rumbled. "You've got a pair of lungs, all right," his staring playmates grumbled. So right through the ball that they were trying to blow to inflate. 10th flat. The family dog with frenzied mane was chasing Fluff the mouser. Then poof, the rocket flashed between, and quite astonished Towser. Now if this dog had wit enough the English tongue to torture, he might have growled such silly stuff as, "Whew, that cat's a scorcher." That's if the dog That's if the dog would talk, right? He would say that. 11th flat. While Carrie Cook sat with a book, the phonograph went sweetly. Then came the rocket and it smashed that instrument completely. Fair Carrie promptly turned her head, attracted by the roar. "Dear me, I never heard," she said, that record played before." Now, have you noticed anything as we've been hearing this story in regards to some of the words? Is there anything that you've noticed? So let's listen a little bit more and see if you can notice anything else. 12th flat. De Vere was searching for a match to light a cigarette, but failed to find one with dispatch, which threw him in a pet. Just then the rocket flared up bright before his face and crackled, supplying him the needed light. "Thanks awfully," he crackled. 13th flat. Home from the shop came Maud's new hat, a hat of monstrous size. It almost filled the tiny flat before her ravished eyes. When shoo up through the box so proud the rocket flared and spluttered. "I said that hat was all too loud," her peevish husband muttered. So is there anything you're noticing in some of these words? You can stop the video to talk with your teacher or your friends. So some of these words rhyme. So let's hear the next one and then see if you can determine which words sound the same. 14th flat. Tom's pep had helped him start his train, and all would have been fine had not the rocket raising cane blocked traffic on the line. It blew the engine into scrap, as in a fit of passion. "Who would have thought that toy," said Pap, "would blow up in such fashion?" What you could do here is stop the video and go back to the words or the verses and try and see which words are the ones that rhyme. So you can do that in your class or you can do that on your own at home. And there you go. 15th flat. Orlando Pease, quite at his ease. The morning star was reading. "My dear," said he to Mrs. Pease, "here's a report worth heeding." The rocket then in wanton sport flashed through the printed pages. The lady gasped, "A wild report!" then swooned by easy stages. Whew. 16th flat. Doc Danby was a silly guy, so lest he slept too late, he placed a tattoo clock nearby to waken him at 8. But the rocket smote that clock and smashed its way clean through it. "You have a fine alarm," said Doc, "but say you overdo it." There you go. Boom. 17th flat. A penny liner Abram Stout was writing a description. A flame shot up, he pounded out, then threw a mild conniption. For through his Flemington there shied a rocket hot and mystic. "I didn't mean to be," he cried, "so deuced realistic." Wow. 18th flat. Gus Gummerlong had set his head upon some strange invention. "Be careful, Gus," his good wife said, "it might explode, I mention." Just then the pesky rocket flared and wrecked that Yankee notion. "I feared as much," his wife declared, then fainted from emotion. 19th flat. While Bert was on his hobby horse and riding it like mad, the rocket on its fiery course upset the startled lad. The frightened pony plunged a lot, like Fury playing tag. "Whoa, Spot," said Bert, "who would have thought you such a fiery nag?" Whoa, horse. 20th flat. A taxidermist plied his trade upon a walrus head. It really made him quite afraid to meet its stare so dread, when suddenly the rocket bright flared up and then was off. "Oh, Minnie," cried the man in fright, "just hear that walrus cough." So he's coughing, and there's the walrus head. So in one of the vocabulary words, taxidermist, that might be an activity maybe you or your teachers or your parents you could look up and see what a taxidermist does. And maybe you've seen some of those objects that a taxidermist prepares, like the walrus head, or maybe the deer heads that you might see up on a wall somewhere. Top flat. Oh, it was such a splendid flight, that rocket's wild career, but to an end it came all right, as you shall straightway hear. It plunged into a can of cream that Billy Bunk was freezing, and froze quite stiff, as it would seem, and so subsided wheezing. So what happened? The end, boys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen. So the end. What a trip, right, of that rocket. So we determined that he was inside and he wasn't living in a house like we thought. Looked like he was living in an apartment with many floors, right? Wow. Now, would you set a rocket off inside? Probably not. So that's the fun thing of stories that are fiction because they're make believe. And it's sometimes a lot of fun just to listen to them to see what happens. So, in the summary of this video, check to see down there for activities that you can do along with this story that you can do at home or in classroom with your teachers. And what I'm thinking is of what happened in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. So look down there for the notes. And I also want to say subscribe and like. And I also have an online shop if you would like to visit. I have some really cool and interesting things. I have some jewelry, I have journals, and I have pens that perhaps might help you with some of your work this summer. So have a great, great day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.